This week on the NCAA Today, Byron Houston has made Oklahoma State one of college basketball's best this year, and you'll meet this sharpshooting cowboy. With the Winter Olympics just around the corner, the United States hockey team has bolstered itself with one of the best in the NCAA at goalie. All of this and more next on the NCAA Today. Hi, everybody. I'm Ron Franklin. Welcome once again to the NCAA Today here on ESPN. Well, we've got a great show lined up for you today. We're going to be visiting with Coach Pat Summitt, the women's head basketball coach at the University of Tennessee. What great success she has had for the Lady Volunteers. Also, you'll be meeting a nose guard for the Ohio Wesleyan football team. Now, during the basketball season, he's playing center on the basketball team. You'll meet him. But first of all, we're going to take you down to Stillwater, Oklahoma. What great success Eddie Sutton and his staff have had with the Oklahoma State Cowboys. They captured the preseason Big Apple NIT tournament. And currently, they're ranked number 3 in the nation and undefeated. That is, as of the beginning of this past week. One of the reasons for their success is a power forward by the name of Byron Houston. Right now, Robert Allen has more on this gentle giant.
There is no doubt that Byron Houston is a force. Seeing the Oklahoma State power forward making a move for the basket strikes fear in the hearts of frontliners across the Big 8. Away from the court, Houston has something in common with one of America's big screen megastars.
Arnold Schwarzenegger stars in the new...
The characters Arnold Schwarzenegger plays in movies are the same ones Byron likes to dream and read about.
Well, just a little pastime. You're sitting around, you get bored. You know, if you have a vivid imagination, it's something you can just get into, and that's how I got into it. I have a vivid imagination.
It's not unusual for Byron to relax before or unwind after a game with a science fiction book and his imagination. It's an interest that started at a young age with much shorter reading material.
Well, probably when I picked up my first Conan magazine, while looking at Conan, I used to wonder if I could be Conan, thinking stuff like that. And after that, I used to have a whole collection of his books, his comic strips and all that stuff. And so after that, it just expanded.
Byron Houston's hero may be Conan the Barbarian, but there's a lot of places in the Big 8 where they feel Houston is Conan reincarnated.
He's a nasty competitor, and he is. I don't mean dirty in any way, shape, or form. He just loves to play the game, and he's going to play it hard. And I admired that in his play.
Last season, Houston earned co-Big 8 Player of the Year honors. But the way he's playing now, he won't have to share that honor with anybody this time around. The Cowboys senior is averaging 21.4 points a game. He's really worked on his outside shooting touch. So now burly Byron can penetrate, or Lord Byron can fire from far outside.
I'm very hungry. I'm going to give it everything I got and go as far as I possibly can go.
Recently, Houston put himself in some select company, becoming only the 4th player in Big 8 history to score 2,000 points or more and also collect 1,000 or more rebounds. So now Houston can consider himself, along with Wayman Tisdale, Danny Manning, and Doug Smith, as one of the Big 8's all-time predators. In Stillwater, Oklahoma, I'm Robert Allen reporting for the NCAA Today.
Byron Houston, the Husky basketball player for the Oklahoma State Cowboys. Somehow, when I watch him on the court, I don't parallel his abilities there in Dungeons and Dragons, but I guess you have to. Earlier this year, by the way, Oklahoma State held Kansas State to 11 first-half points. They're excellent on defense. That, in fact, tied a team record. We're going to take a break. When we come back, the Winter Olympics are just around the corner, and we'll introduce you to a Maine hockey player who was invited to join Team USA. Stay with us. The NCAA Today is brought to you by Mr. Turkey, the only leading brand of turkey products with no MSG, and by National Car Rental, official car rental company for NCAA championships. I don't know if you read this story back at the first part of the year or not, but Rhode Island College in early January, their gymnasium caught on fire. It burned, and with it went all its equipment. Well, things looked very bleak, very glum for the youngsters who were participating in athletics. But what do you know? Programs from around the area stepped up and said, hey, we want to lend a helping hand. The 1991-92 season came to a devastating halt for hundreds of Rhode Island College athletes. A 4-alarm blaze ripped through the school's gymnasium, destroying nearly everything inside. Members of the Rhode Island College basketball team watched as their gym, their uniforms, equipment, and years of history went up in flames.
You know, this is like a shock right here. I don't know what's happening. It's all messed up. It's all screwed.
The school's athletic department has been working hard to salvage what they can out of the rest of the year.
We have 4 sports in season right now: wrestling, women's gymnastics, women's basketball, men's basketball. So our first point of concern will be, how do we finish those seasons?
Overwhelming generosity from the Rhode Island community has helped soften the blow for the RIC athletic department. The University of Rhode Island donated old uniforms to the men's basketball team. Providence College offered the men and women use of its facilities. Community College of Rhode Island provided travel bags and basketballs. Bryant College offered training room supplies, and Brown University offered the gymnastics team use of its equipment and facilities. The wrestling team had to start its program all over as well, including finding a mat.
LaSalle Academy, which is very gracefully donated their mats, their uniforms to us, and many other high schools, Warwick Veterans, Ponagansett, and on have donated time and facilities and equipment, and it really has been great.
I guess you'd have to say the situation at Rhode Island College is good news, bad news. The good news is the insurance company probably is going to take care of a bulk of the losses by the fire, but Rhode Island College is still looking for a temporary home. Well, let's talk about hockey. You know, the University of Maine has one of the best NCAA hockey teams going this year. And as they embark on making the NCAA playoffs, they're going to have to do it without one of their star players. You see, he's been invited to play with Team USA at the Winter Olympics. Dale Duff has more on that story from Orono, Maine.
On Barron, tees it up, stopped by Dunham, second shot again, stopped by Dunham. Oh, what a great second save.
I think everybody growing up wants to play for the Olympic team, you know, and it's something you really dream of. You never really think about it until you get older, and I think now I realize that it's really happening, and I'm really looking forward to it.
At 19 years of age, Mike Dunham just might be what the U.S. Olympic hockey team needs to reach for the gold in France. His coach at the University of Maine thinks so.
Here's a guy that nothing seems to bother him. You know, here's a guy that goes from playing in the World Junior Championships, being the star of the show, to having a day vacation in Florida where he shoots a 77 and goes birdie on the last 2 holes, and then bingo, he gets a phone call and he's on the U.S. Olympic team, and nothing seems to affect him. I mean, he just keeps it to himself, and he keeps that self-composure about him.
When he saw the tape of Dunham at the World Junior Tournament in late December, Walsh knew he just might be getting a call from Olympic coach Dave Peterson.
Across the Lindros, right in front of the net, Daniel shooting, and a big stop by Mike Dunham.
He did, and when Dunham's 2-game tryout earlier this month was over, he was added to the Olympic team. But there is one catch. Dunham remains a student at the University of Maine, a full course load, and that means homework in France.
Oh yeah, I'm sure, you know, half the team's going to be hanging out with their wives and children, and I'll be doing schoolwork, so it'll be different.
Mike Dunham was 7 years old when Jim Craig led USA to that miracle on ice. Who knows?
I think 80 sticks out to all hockey players. You know, at the time when USA Hockey came up front and showed that they could play with everybody in the world. And I think, you know, every team that's gone to the Olympics since then have had trouble because they've had the shadow of that. And I think, you know, you just got to forget about it and go out and play the game because, you know, America can compete with anybody, I feel. It's going to be, you know, it's a great time. I mean, it's a once-in-a-lifetime chance, and you just got to go out and enjoy it.
I'm Dale Duff in Orono, Maine.
Team USA will play their first game on February the 9th, and that game will be against Italy. We're going to take a break right now. When we come back, we'll introduce you to Pat Summitt, the head women's basketball coach at the University of Tennessee. Stay with us. When you talk about success in women's basketball, you think immediately of Knoxville, Tennessee. The reason for that is the Tennessee Lady Volunteers have won 3 of the last 5 NCAA championships. The architect, well, none other than Pat Summitt. And Bob Kessling has more on this week's National Car Rental Spotlight.
The Tennessee Lady Vols have set a high standard of success other college basketball teams are trying to reach. 3 national titles in 5 years, 11 trips to the Final Four, 15 straight 20-win seasons. The architect of the program is Coach Pat Summitt. She built this team from scratch 18 years ago, taking over as head coach while still pursuing a graduate degree at the University of Tennessee. This was Summitt's first and so far only head coaching job.
Hey, guards, got to be sliding through. Made a lot of mistakes, and I still make mistakes. I think that you have to be flexible if you're going to be a coach, and at times because of maybe not being as flexible as I needed to be, I think I made some mistakes, but then willing to step up and say, that's my fault, I made a mistake. And also to get with other people that you can confide in and that you trust.
Summitt is a demanding, driving coach. She expects effort and performance from her team, and with that will come championships.
Now, I'm going to ask you to be smart this game. You cannot go over the top. You cannot go between people. You have to stay close to her body. Go!
She learned the hard work ethic while growing up on a farm in Middle Tennessee.
We were 5 kids. We lived on a dairy farm. We all had the chores we had to do in the afternoon, and yet that was good because there was a responsibility that we had to assume early in life. A lot of discipline, and discipline has certainly been a strength, I feel like, in building this program, and I think it's something that kids today want, and I think they need.
Taking a trip to the University of Tennessee's Thompson Bowling Arena is like getting a history lesson in women's college basketball.
But the pride of the Lady Vol program is the locker room. It's the biggest in the country. It has to be to hold all the trophies and pictures. The locker room is a tribute to the great players and great teams of the past. With the winning and the success and the tradition, though, comes pressure. Pressure for staying on top.
There's a lot of people that can handle failure, but it's much more difficult to handle success.
While the All-Americans and the championships have helped build the program, the backbone has been academics. Every player that has played 4 years at Tennessee has been to a Final Four and has, more importantly, received an undergraduate degree.
This program can serve as a very positive role model for females, and that's an incentive in itself, to have a program that stresses academics, that understands that there's more to life than basketball, but it's helping people.
Tennessee's in the running again this year for a national championship, but that's what Tennessee fans have come to expect from the Lady Vols. For the NCAA Today, this is Bob Kessling reporting from Knoxville, Tennessee.
You know, what is even more remarkable about the success that Coach Summitt has had is the fact that they play in what has to be considered the toughest conference in the nation, the SEC. In last week's top 25, there were 6 SEC teams in that top 25. We will take a break. When we come back, we're going to introduce you to truly a big man on campus, Ohio Wesleyan's Keith Rucker. Stay with us. With 3 NCAA titles, the Tennessee Lady Vols have won more national championships than any other women's team. Tennessee also has produced more All-Americans than any school, with 10 players earning national honors since 1975. If you have any ideas for stories you would like to see on the NCAA Today, send them to 7621 Little Avenue, Suite 516, Charlotte, North Carolina, 28226. Off the top of the telecast today, we promised we would introduce you to Keith Rucker of Ohio Wesleyan. Well, here goes. He is their nose guard. He's the starter for them. He's received some All-American recognition. Also, he's a 4-time All-American at track and field. So why basketball? We can tell you this, at 6'4", 330 pounds, he commands a lot of respect in the middle. Jim Day has more.
Meet the big man on campus at Ohio Wesleyan University, literally. 348-pound Keith Rucker was the first Division III football player to ever play in the Hula Bowl. He's expected to be drafted in this year's NFL draft as a defensive lineman. Keith is also a 3-time national champion in the shot put, but his hobbies don't stop there. At 6'4", 348, Keith decided to go out for the Battling Bishops basketball team, making him a one-of-a-kind player.
I'm sure, I know there's some taller, but I'm not sure any more that have more pounds than Keith. In fact, we'd take that as a challenge.
If they tease me about anything, it's just about being big, you know, and then once I start playing and then they see that I can play, then it tones down to like a, you know, I got their full attention, you know, they're watching and they're like, wow, this kid can play basketball. Because a lot of people do think that I'm just out there just to be out there.
No, Keith isn't just taking up space. He's an amazing athlete for his size. The big man can even throw it down.
That's to show everybody I can do it.
There was one slight problem with Keith coming out for the basketball team. They didn't have a uniform big enough to fit him, so they had to special order one. For the first half of the season, Keith actually had to wear his track uniform during games. But now the uniform is here, complete with a jersey big enough to be a nightgown and a size 50 pair of shorts.
How you feel? Oh, man. Words can't express how I feel. I got a uniform now.
The new uniform seemed to light a spark in Keith. On this night, he had career highs of 10 points and 9 rebounds off the bench. Just his presence inside is tough for opponents to defend.
You know, you say most of the time, how are you going to play a post? Are you going to side him, you know, behind him, in front of him? And sometimes I've kiddingly said with Keith, there is no side. You know, it's all just round, you know. And there's no way, I mean, seriously, there's no way that a defensive player can take a position and keep the ball from getting to it. And that's it's just a real asset.
It's another day, another hobby for Keith Rucker. Basketball keeps Keith in shape, but it's football and the dream of the NFL that Keith hopes will fulfill a lifetime ambition.
Basically, all I really want to do is take care of my mother and then worry about myself from any other of my responsibilities, because my father passed away when I was a year old, and my mother raised 8 kids by herself and put 3 or 4 of them through college. And, you know, right now we have a very successful family and a very successful outlook on life, and I just want to be able to give back to her what she gave to me.
This is Jim Day reporting for the NCAA Today.
Rucker not only gave the Battling Bishops more size on the floor, he also gave them some very valuable senior leadership on a young club. Right now, I would like to introduce you to Tom Frericks, who's the athletic director at the University of Dayton. Tom is not only big on the local scene in Dayton, Ohio, but he's also big as far as the national picture is concerned. You see, he is on the prestigious Men's NCAA Basketball Committee. And recently, he was honored at the University of Dayton as they dedicated their field house in his honor. In his 27-year association with the University of Dayton, Tom Frericks has always been the man to get the job done in the face of adversity. In 1965, the year after he became athletic director, Dayton was faced with finding a larger basketball arena. Frericks' solution was the 13,000-seat UD Arena, and now Dayton ranks consistently among the top 25 in attendance. Frericks' leadership was not only in athletics at Dayton. Confronted with declining enrollment in the early 1970s, Frericks took a leadership role in that area as well as other departments to get Dayton back on track. Nationally, Tom Frericks served as the NCAA Secretary-Treasurer during 1987 and 1988. He is also chairman of the prestigious Men's Basketball Committee. This group is responsible for picking sites and teams for the NCAA tournament. In honor of all his accomplishments, the University of Dayton recently held ceremonies to name the newly renovated UD Arena in Frericks' honor.
A man of singular vision and dedication that really made something great happen for this university and for the city of Dayton.
Frericks has been battling cancer since 1990 and was unable to attend the ceremonies. However, his daughter Lynn reflected his feelings to the assembled group of his peers.
For 27 years, there has been nothing closer to him than the university and its activities in athletics and in the areas of advancement, personnel, admission, and financial aid. Please know of his gratitude for your teamwork, during his work tenure to make this a better place to coach and to educate.
In 1989, Tom Frericks was given the Wilford S. Bailey Award. That is handed out annually to the nation's outstanding collegiate sports administrator. We'll take a break. We'll have more coming up on the NCAA Today after this. Here's a bit of hoops history for you. During this week in 1971, UCLA defeated Cal Santa Barbara 74-61. John Wooden's Bruins, on the way to their 5th of 7 straight NCAA titles, won their next 87 games to set an all-time NCAA record. The NCAA Today has been brought to you by National Car Rental, official car rental company for NCAA championships, and by Gillette, maker of Right Guard Sports Stick. For people who have spent a lot of time on the road with athletic teams, you will understand exactly what I'm talking about. But sometimes the road can be more adventuresome and maybe kind of wild and wacky than the games itself. And we have learned that Northwestern State in Louisiana recently took a most unusual journey. In fact, Sam Schachter has more on that story for us.
It's one of the biggest basketball rivalries in North Louisiana. And this year, the game almost did not happen. See, Northwestern's team bus came to a dead stop on the interstate about 40 miles from Shreveport.
When the bus broke down, everybody kind of like looked at each other. And, you know, we call Big John our bus driver, MacGyver. So at first, we really didn't worry about it because anytime there's a problem, he always solve it. This time, it's one he couldn't solve, and everybody like, uh-oh, what are we going to do now?
In the meantime, in Shreveport, the wait for a 7 o'clock game was on.
3 Northwestern players are here, though, and they got here via trucker. They hitched a ride with the trucker. Honest engine. And
I didn't know if we should ride with him, but I just knew that I wanted to get to the game.
Well, Jay Shearer, Mike Thornton, and Scott Stapler got to the game in plenty of time to warm up in dress clothes and game shoes. Some other players, though, tell better stories than the trucker.
You know, we was all just playing. We had our thumb out. It really was a joke. And she stopped about a mile up, and then she started bagging back in the middle of the road. We said, oh, nobody not riding with her.
So we got in the car, and I was scared to sit in the front seat because you know what I was saying, don't hitchhike.
She's from Negative. She was on her way to Shreveport to stay with someone in her family. She had an eye doctor's appointment.
I let Roman get in the front seat because he's a good talker, so he introduced us and talked. We noticed we were going to get there safely.
She was in a hurry anyway because she didn't have any lights. And it was about to get dark. She didn't have any lights.
I was sitting in the back seat with Kenny McMillan, and we kept nudging each other on the knee, telling us, she can't drive, And
she had eye problem. We almost like to ran a BMW off the road, and we kept on the side. And all my teammates and I, we kept looking at each other, and we were trying to like help out, saying, you can get over now, trying to help direct her.
Finally, they all made it to Shreveport. Banks had one of his best games of the season, and Shearer had one of the best games of his life. He set a Gold Dome record for three-pointers in the game. Northwestern beat Centenary big, 112-77, on a night the bus stopped running, but NSU didn't.
Well, that's all the time we've got on this week's show. Hope you've enjoyed it. Now, coming up next week, Cameron Indoor Stadium. I know you've heard of it. It's on the campus of Duke University. Some of the wildest, wackiest fans in college basketball that any of us know. For the NCAA Today, I'm Ron Franklin. So long, everybody.